Hi everyone, welcome to the Witching Week. Today is episode number 96. Today we're going to be looking at the moons of Uranus. We're going to be looking at the spirits and deities of mountains and volcanoes. And we're going to be looking at taking responsibility for your witchcraft path within witchcraft. So last week we had a quick look at forming your own opinions. This week we're going to look at taking responsibility for yourself in how you move along that path. So grab a cup of tea, put some incense on, get comfy, and we'll explore the Witching Week. Hi everybody, welcome back. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for watching. How are you all doing? It's lovely to be back. It's been another whizzy week. And yeah, I've got some lovely topics to talk to you about today. I've also got a personal update, which I'm going to do at the beginning of the video, and I'm going to get that out of the way. Although I do want to share an experience I've had as a result of what I'm going to share with you. And then we'll get onto some slightly more witchy topics. So first of all, let's do tea and incense. I realised when I sat down and I gathered everything up that I'm having a bit of a purple day today. That is not on purpose, it's just how it's worked out. But tea, I'm on the Twinings, blackcurrant and blueberry, not my most favourite out of all the fruit teas. As I've said, I like the St Clement's, which is the orange and lemony one, but very nice still. And I am burning some lavender incense. This is kind of a cheap one. I was given this, which is lovely, and they do sell it down the road. I find these ones can be a bit perfumey. This one's very, very smoky, but it does smell of lavender, and it's actually all right. We'll see by the end of this session whether I've got a headache or not, but yeah, very nice, very nice. And I wanted to just show you some tea that my husband is really enjoying, because I know I don't really show sort of normal tea. I don't drink it, but he has been really enjoying rooibos. And the reason he's drinking this is because it's caffeine free. He's trying to do caffeine free at home and then, you know, grab a coffee if we're out and about. So he's gone for this, and this is one from Lidl, and it's only 89p. I'm not being endorsed to tell you this. This is just something I wanted to show you. And yeah, he's really loving that. So if you want to try a tea but without the caffeine, I think some people put milk in it, some don't. I think generally you don't, but I do know someone who drinks it with milk. He doesn't. But yeah, you might enjoy that. You might enjoy that. Right, so a quick personal update. It is a health update. So I know this isn't everybody's cup of tea, and I'm sorry, but this is my channel, and I just want to explain why I haven't been as active everywhere as I could have been. Some of that has been the fallout from Patreon October. I wanted to do a super bumper month for that month, and I did, and I'm still catching up a little bit. Next year I will start those preparations much earlier so that I don't get out of sync. But personal update, either my heart meds are wearing off, or my heart is getting worse, or both. And I just wanted to let you know I am struggling a little bit. I know it's not obvious from my appearance. I filmed this very early in the day, so I've only had my medication about an hour, so I've had enough time to feel human, and I couldn't do this in the afternoon. I would be too out of breath in the afternoon, not even by lunchtime really, to be honest. I have a much awaited appointment coming up, so I've been waiting since April, and I have a specialist cardiology appointment. I have been referred by my cardiology consultant to a specialist hospital. I've got about 5 rhythm issues, and then I have another problem which is very serious, and they are not able to do anything about at the moment, and they won't. However, that one is life-changing and life-limiting. I don't want to go into that one. It's very, very personal. I am happy to talk about my rhythm issues though. I'm not going to say which department I've been referred to within cardiology, because again, it just gets a bit too personal. But I'm hoping to have an operation which should restore some of my quality of life, which is what I'm after at this point. So I am excited about that, but I just wanted to explain this is why I'm not around as much as I have been. Part of that is I've been working on Patreon, I've been doing the work, creating the content. I've also tried to keep my shop going, which may or may not be open tonight. I did originally announce it would be tonight, but it depends you know, whether I've quite got everything done. But I have slowed. I've really slowed. So please hang on with me. Thank you so much to my patrons who are being very emotionally supportive. They're not seeing a difference in what they're receiving, but I'm finding that by the end of the day, like 5-6 p.m, I don't even have enough energy left in me to post on Instagram. I'm really fatigued. And also I just wanted to say that there is a huge cognitive burden when you have heart and lung issues, because you're not getting the oxygen around your body. And so a lot of my responses are very simple in their nature now, very, you know, basic language, and there isn't much creativity there. And that is because I think I'm not getting as much oxygen to my head. I'm also getting like acne again, which had cleared up when I first started taking my medication. So I think 2025 will be better depending on how this appointment goes. I'm really hoping they're going to help me. I haven't been, apart from the referral, I haven't really got anywhere with my cardiology consultants, and it's very scary. I think that they are very much bound by what they're allowed to spend, and I think there is some, because I've got a huge medical file, because of the connective tissue disorder, they're quite dismissive, and it's taken me quite a long time to prove. And they're like, oh, you have got heart problems. Yeah, I've been telling you this for forever. And we have, as I've said before on this channel, we have some really spicy heart history. So yeah, it's taken a while to get them to listen, but I'm hoping now a consultant's referral to a specialist is a pretty serious thing. So I'm assuming that specialist will listen. So 2025, I think, will be bigger and better, and I'll be able to give more of myself. But I just want to say that I'm actually quite proud of myself for what I've achieved in 2024, especially as I wasn't expecting to launch my business really this year. Not as a full business freestanding on its own, but there are other reasons why that happened. But I wanted to go into an experience I had off the back of all of this. So firstly, just thanks again to my patrons and to friends and family who have supported me in what I've been going through the last 2 years, and especially my husband. But yeah, I just want to quickly tell you about an experience I had. It's not related to witchcraft, it is related to health, and it's not particularly very positive, but I think it's on me. It's important that someone like myself, who looks like this, you know, in that I don't look unwell, I explain some of the things that occasionally we go through. So last weekend, I experienced some discrimination, and I've never experienced it quite sort of as outwardly as this before. So I have got a blue badge now. I've been entitled to a blue badge, I think, for about 6 or 7 years. I never ordered one because I could cope parking in irregular spaces. And now I've got to the point where I'm getting very breathless, and not walking the length and breadth of a car park means I've got more puff to go around the shop, and it also means that I'm limiting the exertion I'm putting on my heart in the day. It also means I'm putting on lots of weight at the moment. You might have noticed I'm a bit bigger, but it means that actually I can do more when I walk less. So I was in my husband's big truck. We were on our way to visit my friend, or our friends, and we were backing into a disabled space, and this young girl in her 20s who was with her parents was just giving me just like the smuggest look ever, like we were doing something we shouldn't have. We hadn't even got out the truck yet, and it seems that some people don't understand disability. So with my blue badge, I can get in any car with any person. The badge is registered to me, not the vehicle. And it seems like disabled people are supposed to look like werewolves. We're supposed to look different in some way. We're not supposed to have nice things. we're not supposed to have good looking husbands, and we're definitely not supposed to be in big trucks. Now, the irony is, I've spoken about my connective tissue disorder before, which is probably partly responsible for the issues that I'm having. It's actually much easier for me to get in and out of the truck and not dislocate or sublux or semi-sublux my hips out of a big truck than it is the car that we used to have, which was more like a regular car. But anyway, this young woman, she was smirking, she was looking at us, and she said something to her mum, who then turned to stare at us, and she went out of her way to make me feel uncomfortable. Now, absolutely hats off to her. She obviously believes that disabled spaces should be used by disabled people, but you can have a significant disability and look normal and it not show on the outside of your body. I don't wear my heart and lungs on the outside of my body. I wish I could be a different colour. I wish when I was like really, really poorly, I changed, you know, like I was orange or purple or something. And I wish we all did that, so that when you wear that colour, people could tell, oh yeah, you're really poorly. So kind of hats off to her for, you know, feeling that that was a disabled space and ergo it should be used by disabled people, because she obviously felt that we shouldn't be in that space. But disability is not, it's not always obvious, and I think that people assume that it always involves maybe a wheelchair, and it doesn't. And disabled parking spaces really, really help me at the moment. I've noticed when I'm leaving messages for my friends and family, I'm having to take big gulps of air, and you're probably starting to hear it now. My voice wavers a little bit, and that's because I have to work so, my heart has to work so hard. So can you imagine when I'm walking around, if I'm having a particularly bad day, I can get really out of breath. I can't walk as fast as my husband and the kids anymore. I'm a ways behind. I just found it incredible that I would be shamed in such a way. I nearly held up my badge to show her, but I decided against it because I don't have to prove who I am. And we're not werewolves, you know, we don't wear a special hat, or we don't have to have a special sort of lanyard around our neck, and we don't have to look a certain way. We can be young, we can be attractive, not be attractive, we can have a nice car or not have a nice car, we can have a good looking husband or not. The point is, it's my husband's truck and he is fit and healthy and well, he's helping me. So yeah, interesting experience. And if we were parked in that space and shouldn't have been, she could have reported our registration and they would have called out our registration and asked us to move the car. But it's weird how there's no process for, you know, people who are stood by their car who are being outwardly discriminating. I couldn't think of the word then. As I said, cognitive load is quite difficult at the moment. So yeah, that was interesting. That was my first time. I've only had my badge 2 weeks and that was my first time where someone's given us a bit of a hard time. And I really wish I'd gone over and said something, but that would have put me at a disadvantage. A big hit of adrenaline would have affected my heart and it would have ruined the rest of my day. And obviously, I think if these people are outwardly going to be difficult like that, then there's probably no talking to them anyway. So moving on now, onto some witchy topics that aren't about me. We have approximately 5 weeks now till the winter solstice, or the summer solstice if you're in the southern hemisphere. We have got just under 6 weeks until Christmas. So where has this part of the year gone? It is absolutely flying. Is anyone else finding that it's flying? I really wanted to take it easy, but it's just not happening. We are supposed to be wintering. We are supposed to be moving more slowly and allowing our bodies to adapt to the cold and the dark, but it's just not happening. You know, from the busyness of Samhain to the busyness of Yule and Christmas, there is just so much to do. And as I am personally, slowing down, I've got less time in which to do it. So I'm in bed at like 8 and out of bed 8 or 9, like I said. So I don't have much time out of work to get stuff done. I have been enjoying autumn this year, I have to say. As we edge closer and closer to sort of the official winter months, I am really enjoying autumn this year, and there are two reasons for that. One, I am trying really hard mentally. I'm telling myself I'm enjoying it. I'm looking for the things that I am enjoying and that I find interesting or beautiful. I am being grateful for things as I can find them. And also my Patreon peeps, thank you so much if you are on Patreon and you're watching. You guys, having someone to sort of share it with and talk it through with and just, you know, enjoy autumn topics has really made all the difference to me, and I've been really mindful about it. So I've noticed, for example, and it's not like I've never not noticed the autumn colours before. Obviously we all notice the autumn colours, but I've noticed on the particularly sort of bleak and gloomy days that the autumn colours really stand out. So every time we've had a gloomy day, I've been telling myself, wow, this is fantastic. Look at those colours, look how amazing they look. And actually, I've come to really enjoy the bleak and gloomy days. Never in a million years, as a sunshine lover, never in a million years did I think I would say that, but being mindful has really helped. And the fact that it's been mild again, it does really help. It's only just started to get cold, really, you know, properly cold in terms of inside the house and outside, and that has just really helped. Just not having such a long cold spell is making all the difference to me. And I know I've said it before on the Witching Week that that's not great in terms of obviously the global picture and climate change and global warming, but it is helping me cope. So I've become really mindful as well about how I plan my week. So because of our rubbishy internet access, I'm having to do that anyway. So I go to the library and I get as much done that requires a fast internet speed there. And then I'm trying to plan things so that I can be in the utility room, which does hold a bit of heat. So between the two things, I'm managing to stay warm for all of the week, rather than just sitting out in the cold and being like, oh, it's freezing. When I say out in the cold, I mean my living room. I am making a concerted effort and I'm breaking up my week with warmer places to be. So yeah, I'm enjoying it much more. I'm still now sort of starting to avoid going out and getting too cold because there's no warming up once you get inside my house. But we're not quite there yet, but we have had what I would call the turn, the change. And I think I mentioned this last week. It has now got quite a bit colder. It's still mild, but it's more like normal temperatures for this time of year. So it's cold at night now. We're waking up with some really spectacular mists. There was a gorgeous one on Wednesday, but I didn't manage to catch it, unfortunately. The newspapers, though, are starting with their extreme stories, and we've discussed these before as well. Like the Express always has, you know, like 800-mile snow bomb about to detonate over the UK. We have had that headline this week. So UK braces for 800-mile wide snow bomb. Excuse me. And they always come up with this and it never happens. However, it does look on the weather app like we are going to have some sleet on the 21st. So they're saying that on the 21st of November in the UK, the whole country is going to be covered in snow. Quite whether that will happen or not, time will tell. But we have started the season of the outlandish headlines. And 9 times out of 10, well, more than that, 99 times out of 100, these really extreme headlines never come to pass. So we'll see. And I expect the bets for whether we have a white Christmas or not have probably begun. I think we have to have like one snowflake fall in the UK for it to be declared a white Christmas, which is just bonkers because, yeah, you're probably going to get snow in Scotland, certainly up high, but you're probably not going to get snow where I am or down south. I was going to say, or certainly down south, but in recent years, since my mum has moved from the south up to, she's not quite in the Midlands like I am. I don't think she's considered Midlands, but anyway, since she's moved up, she was expecting to get more snow, but it's been the other way around and the south has had tons and we've had none up here. So we haven't had a proper snow proper decent snow that's lasted for a good few days. We haven't had that in years. We have had a lot of like single snowy days that happen very late on in the season, so sort of February, March time. But what happens is it disappears really, really quickly. But yeah, to have a white Christmas in the UK, there's got to be like one snowflake that it falls and is registered and seen by, I think, one of the like weather stations. But that's all we have to have, which I always think is a bit daft. A white Christmas would be, you know, a reasonable amount of snow in a reasonable amount of the country, but then where do you draw the line? So I do kind of get it. I get it. Sorry, I am getting attacked. This was clearly a bit ambitious to use this incense, and maybe I'm getting to the point where I'm not going to be able to use it at all. Anyway, we're going to talk about the moons of Uranus now. And when I was a kid, it was called Uranus. And that wasn't even us being funny. We grew up and that planet was called Uranus. Not your anus, but Uranus. But anyway, they call it Uranus now. And they have made a groundbreaking discovery, although it all still sounds a bit vague. But they believe that Uranus and its largest 5 moons quite possibly have oceans under their icy surfaces, outer layers. So Uranus is the 7th planet from the sun. It is gaseous, so it does have a solid underneath, but it's gaseous. It's cyan coloured, so it's like a bluey green colour, and that is because it's made up of methane, but also water and ammonia. And it has a complex cloud structure. And its name comes from the great deity of the sky, which is known as Caelus in Roman mythology. And Uranus was the father of Cronus, which is Saturn, and the grandfather of Zeus, which is Jupiter. And it has 28 natural moons or satellites, which I was really surprised by. I thought Uranus just had like 3 or 4 moons. It doesn't, it has 28, and they are all named after Shakespeare and Alexander Pope. So its 5 biggest moons, which are Titania, Oberon, Umbriel, Ariel and Miranda, along with Uranus itself. These satellites are believed to have subsurface oceans, which have the potential basically to support life elsewhere in the solar system. So I don't quite know how that works. I'd have to do a bit more reading. But Uranus is such an amazing planet. It's got this sort of sideways tilt at 98 degrees, which is different to the rest of the planets in the solar system. It's got the coldest atmosphere. It's got this amazing bluey green colour with bands around it. And it has only had 1 visitor in 1986, which was Voyager 2. And yeah, many people feel it's one of the most interesting planets to study. So of course, when we think of planets and we think of their moons and we think of all these discoveries we make, we can of course push this back to witchcraft. When we think of the phrase or the maxim, as above, so below. So the belief that whatever happens, you know, up there affects us down here, and vice versa. And I think it's really, really interesting that in 2024, we are still finding out things about planets, you know, as our science improves and our technology improves, so does our understanding of these celestial bodies. So yeah, I thought that was really, really interesting that there may well be entire oceans under the surface of Uranus and 5 of its largest moons. And this is what I love about the Witching Week, is that as I plan these little topics for us to just sort of, you know, see if they take our fancy, and then we can go and do a bit of further research. I get to do a little bit of reading about them and I learn something new. So I had no idea that it had 28 moons. So yeah, that's something I've learned this week. And I know people might think, well, that's a fairly common piece. It just depends whatever you come across, doesn't it, really? Where you spend your time, what you spend your time reading. I don't spend any great amount of time reading about the planets, unfortunately. My husband does. He absolutely loves these kind of topics, and I find them very interesting too, but I am so busy usually teaching and preparing stuff for others that sometimes I don't quite pick up on things. So it's really nice doing the Witching Week because I get to explore a series of topics. So we're going to move on to volcanoes now. In the last couple of days, there has been a volcano on a remote Indonesian island that has, I don't want to say the word erupted because I don't know if it's like a full eruption, but it has been sending columns of hot ash into the air. It's been spewing them. So there's been a lot that's been coming out. Unfortunately, it has killed 10 people and it injured dozens of others, and it's stopping air travel sort of in and out of Bali. So this is Mount Lowotobi Laki. And it just got me thinking about the fascination that humans have had for mountains and volcanoes for thousands of years. So many people from many different areas of the world have believed there to be a spirit or a deity inside a mountain or a volcano. And to some degree have believed that their behaviour and their actions and the things that they do and say have an impact on this deity or this spirit, and would either please or displease them or anger them even. And actually, when we think about this, there is an element of truth in this. If we treat the earth really badly, as we are, and we abuse our planet when we think of climate change, there are going to be more natural disasters. Now, I'm not saying that is what has happened here. I don't actually know the reason why it's erupting. It could just be that that is part of the natural cycle of that particular volcano's life. We know it has, a life cycle, and that these things will erupt every so many years. So I'm not saying that's what's going on here, but obviously as we do disrupt the environment and the natural surroundings, our natural surroundings, we are obviously going to see more extreme weather events and things like volcanoes and earthquakes. So I thought, we can actually identify with some of these beliefs that go back many thousands of years. If we look at Roman mythology, they had Vulcan, who was the god of fire and metalworking, and he was born in the heart of a volcano. So I guess this is partly where the word volcano has come from Vulcan. And in Japan, they believe that Mount Vesuvius is an entrance to the spirit world. So it's like a portal. And throughout history, volcanoes and large mountains have always been seen as symbols of power and mystery, from Hawaii to Java to ancient Greece to Japan, as I've mentioned, all parts of Indonesia, and there are countless myths, stories and legends about them. So it's worth having a little look. I think if I remember rightly, there's like a volcanic deity in Moana. I've only seen that once with my children about 5 or 6 years ago. No, probably longer actually, because it was at the old house, so it was beyond 6 years, probably more like 7 or 8. But I think there's a volcanic deity, isn't there, in Moana? And I think this is really weird how I can remember stuff like this, but I can't remember something from like 2 years ago. I think it was called Tika or Tika. I don't know how you pronounce it, but yeah, there was one, wasn't there? As I'm talking, the images are coming back. But anyway, yeah, really interesting. Very sad, obviously, for the people that have lost their lives or been injured. It must be really, really unusual for, someone from the UK who doesn't really have any dangerous animals, save maybe, the idea of getting trampled by cows, but we don't have any dangerous animals. We don't really have any dangerous weather. If you keep out the sea, you'll be safe. It's weird to think of living by something like a volcano that's going to possibly put your life at risk. I can't imagine having that. It's kind of like literally looming over me. We're very, very sheltered here in the UK, very sheltered. And I suspect that just disconnects us even further from nature, really, to be honest. So last week, we spoke about forming your own opinions in witchcraft, and I love talking about witchcraft and the thoughts and the beliefs and the attitudes surrounding it and how we go about our personal practice. I spoke about the veil. I spoke about how there are some aspects of witchcraft, so for example, knowing whether the veil to be thin at Beltane or not, you know, how some of these things are just going to remain a mystery to us. There is a reason why we call spiritual paths and witchcraft and certain aspects of all of this the mysteries, because we do not have the answers, and we won't have the answers for everything. Today, I want to go a little step on from that. I want to talk about taking responsibility on our witchcraft path. So when I talk about that, I mean for our own path, for our own practices. I'm not talking from an ethical point of view. Obviously, there is taking responsibility for that as well. You're responsible for your actions. You're responsible for the spells that you cast. But I'm talking about taking responsibility for our own learning, for our own experiences, for our own wisdom, for our own knowledge that we develop. Effectively, I'm talking about standing within our own power. I really understand that especially people that are new to the craft might feel unconfident, they might be unsure, they might still be figuring out where they're going and how things work. But we are all responsible for our practice from day one. So I'm going to give you a bit of an example so you sort of understand what I'm getting at here. So I'm going to use the example of spells. So you watch a video online on YouTube and it's a witch or some other pagan and they're talking about magical practice, and they suggest you do either a certain spell every week for an extended period of time, or a certain spiritual practice or something like that. It's up to us as adults to figure out whether that is something that fits into the personal path, spiritual path that we want to create, that we want to cultivate, or whether even that just fits into our life as people. We don't need to seek permission from others, and I totally get where some of us are in a sort of a teaching or a leading role. I understand that when you get confirmation from someone, you can feel like, right, I'm doing it right, I'm getting this right, which is brilliant, and that is what we're there for. And we have to look at how this works as well. So for example, I've given you this example of spell or some sort of magical practice that they've suggested you do over an extended period of time. If it is like a 7-day spell, then yes, you're going to have to do that every 7 days, because that is what the spell is called and that's what it entails. It might be a spell that requires you do something every day for 6 months, and that is part of the spell, in which case it does need that commitment and that dedication. But if this is a suggestion that this is how you can grow, this is how you can develop, this is something you can do within your practice for you to learn and get experience and wisdom, you can't ask other people to make that decision for you. And if there is, you know, we all have aspects that we are, or, you know, areas that we are good at or we're not good at. So I'm not good at remembering things, you know, and I'm not good at retaining very, very complex information. So if there is something that comes up and I can't do that with the skills or with the abilities that I have, it doesn't really make sense me asking someone, you know, what should I do? You know, not what should I do instead, but you have to figure it out. This is your magical practice. This is your magical path. It's on us. It's on us to figure that out. We don't need to seek approval. So in the same way that we can form our own opinions on things, we don't have to seek approval from others. In some scenarios, it's good to have support, absolutely. And I would expect you to go looking for that support with teachers and mentoring groups and stuff like that. But hand-holding for the most basic of things, where only you can make that decision of whether that fits into your life or not, is exhausting, and it's a drain on others, and it's not fair. So yeah, you might have a spell, for example, that you've written and you want to ask someone, does this make sense to you? You know, do you think does this make sense spiritually? Does this make sense from a symbolism point of view? But what you can't do is ask someone to write that spell for you. What you can't do is ask someone to give you a definitive, yes, you should use that magical correspondence, because magical correspondences and the way we go about things are ours to develop. This is our magical path. These are our magical experiences. So we need to be adults and stand in our own power. And it is as simple as that sometimes. Some of the things that people email me are not reaching out for support. They are asking me to do the work for them. They are asking me to kind of rule over their life and make a decision on whether something's right for them or not. And when I have to wade through countless emails like that, it's really not fair. I cannot make the day-to-day decisions in your life, even if it is related to a witchcraft practice. This is your witchcraft practice. So my call really is to ask people to remember their own personal power. It's to remember the freedom that you have in this path. That's the point of us following a witchcraft path, is we feel empowered, we develop, we grow, we learn, and we have the freedom to do as we choose. There isn't dogma, there isn't set practices, there isn't hierarchy. It's not like, following Christianity, for example. It's very, very different. We have freedom. And this is why we embrace this path. But we have this freedom, so it's on us to make decisions, to make mistakes, because that's how we learn and that's how we grow. If there is a book, for example, that you've come across and you've stumbled at the first hurdle, or there's something you're not sure about, perhaps read the whole book before you then reach out for more help and support, because quite often things become clearer as you read that book. My children, quite often when we're watching a film, we've put the film on, we've all sat down together, we're all watching it, we're all listening to it, and they'll ask a question, and we don't know the answer any more than they do, because we're watching the same film. And we have to say to them, look, just keep watching and you'll see what happens. And then invariably, by asking the question and us answering, we've missed the crux. We've missed something important. We've missed something that might answer their question. So I want to just sort of put that ball back in the court of others, that we are grown-ups. It's up to us to use our skills of reasoning, our critical thinking. Yes, seek support, but you have to seek support in an appropriate way. So witchcraft is our journey, it's our path. We have the right to form our own opinions on things, even if they're wrong. We have the right to do that. We have the right to think critically, to ask questions, to go, hang on a minute, I'm not sure I agree with that. Or to go, yeah, I do agree with that, but I also think, and it is up to us to take responsibility for the shape of our witchcraft, what that looks like. And nothing is set in stone. Nothing is set in stone. Whenever you read a book, that is just the opinions of that person writing that book. Yes, there are some things within witchcraft that don't change. So, for example, and I gave this example last week, magical correspondences for the elements. They do have a set energy. They are attributed a colour each. They do have a symbol. Those things don't change. But when you encounter authors discussing a topic, that is them sharing their experience with you. So you are free to come up with your own way of doing things, your own way of experiencing things, and you will have your own perspective on things. So I think we need to get rid of some of the fear. We need to get rid of and when I say fear, I mean it's that lack of confidence that doesn't allow us to fully step into our own power. And of course that comes with time, that comes with learning, that comes with, the further we get down the path, the easier that is. But we also need to get rid of some of the laziness. And I say that in the nicest way, in a non-judgmental way. I know it's easier when other people say things, for sure, because we feel safe in that, but it's on us to learn, to explore, to make mistakes. That's how we gain our wisdom and our knowledge. And we have to let other people live their lives. They might be taking a leading role with witchcraft. They might have the answers and you might not, but it is still really, you are the seeker. It's your job to seek the answers. And when I talk about that, it's not seeking it from someone else, generally speaking. It's seeking it along your own journey throughout this world. By all means, get a teacher or a mentor as well, and they will answer questions and they will help you with things. But really the responsibility is still on your shoulders. If you want to know something, you have to find it. And that's the point of a spiritual path. It's not to have a source that you can go directly to get all the answers from every single time. It's to do the work. It's to read books. It's to try things. It's to not try things. It's to try spells. It's to try spells and it not go the way you want, or it not feel right. It's so nuanced and it's so complex, but at the same time it's very simple as well. This is not a quick, there's no finish line in view, and there is no race there either. You have to travel your journey and find out, you know, the things that you find out on that journey. And some of you will learn some things and some of you will learn different things. Yeah, that's all I want to say on that. I think I will continue with these little topics of, you know, behaviours and attitudes and opinions on witchcraft and witchcraft practice. I really enjoy talking about this stuff, and this just seemed to make sense following on from last week. I'll have to think about next week whether there's another natural follow-on. But yeah, I'm going to do some cards now. No, I'm going to do a reading now and then some cards, actually. Right, we're going to have From Him to Zeus. So Zeus is also known as Jupiter, and this is from the Irish poet Francis Ledwidge, and it is a prayer for Zeus to bring peace to a soul in pain. And it says that cars here means chariots. God, whose kindly hand doth sow the rainbow showers on hill and lawn, to make the young sweet grasses grow, and fill the udder of the fawn, whose light is life of leaf and flower, and all the colours of the birds, whose song goes on from hour to hour upon the river's liquid words. Reach out a golden beam of thine, and touch her pain. Your fingertips do make the violet's blue eclipse, like milk upon a daisy shine. God, who lights the little stars, and overnight the white dew spills, whose hand doth move the season's cars, and clouds that mock our pointed hills, whose bounty fills the cow-trod wold, and fills with bread the warm brown sod, who brings us sleep where we grow old, till sleep and age together nod. Reach out a beam and touch the pain. A heart has oozed through all the years. Your pity dries the morning's tears and fills the world with joy again. I thought that was really lovely, and I don't think we had that one last year. Right, let's do some cards for this week. Let me know in the comments what you've been up to and how it's going. Are you looking forward to the Yule season? Down in the southern hemisphere, you guys are working towards summer solstice. You have 5 weeks until, whoops, I'm gonna put that one up because that one jumped. You have 5 weeks until the peak of your summer. I'm sure it's really hot now in some places, and we have got 5 weeks until the peak of our winter, and days start to get lighter, but we've only really entered the darkest days now, and that's going to continue now until February. We won't see that promise of light until in bulk, really, when we will have much more in the way of blue skies, and there might even be a little bit of warmth in the sun. But from now, so kind of from the clocks changing really through till February are the darkest days. So whilst we're all gearing up to celebrate the winter solstice and that return, it's going to take, well, it's going to take 7 weeks, I would say, at least, for that really to become apparent. And I'm looking forward to celebrating that first sort of, that first little extra bit of light and that divine spark at Imbolg. I think I probably enjoy Imbolg more than, I don't know, certain other ones, like maybe in the autumn, like maybe the autumn equinox, as beautiful as that is, it doesn't quite hold as much sort of hope and strength for me. I absolutely love the autumn, although I don't enjoy the cold and the dark, as you guys know. I love the colours and I love the themes of gratitude and celebration, but Imbolg feels quite special. I'd be probably more inclined to do something at Marbon, or autumn equinox, because that just kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Having like a feast and gratitude and kind of taking note of the changes. Imbolg seems much more discreet. It's not as sort of out there in terms of obvious symbology, but it definitely holds a lot of hope and definitely a very uplifting energy, and just that sort of belief that things are about to get a lot better and a lot more enjoyable. I think that's, you know, the thing for me. It's on the upturn rather than the downturn. Right, let's pick some cards. Okay, so I've got 4 cards. I've got the Ace of Swords, I've got the Knight of Cups, I've got the Tower, which is upside down, and I'm going to use reverse this time, and I've got Queen of Cups. So I think this is very much talking about the threshold moment. We've got the Knight of Cups, and the Knights usually are messengers that huge change is about to take place. So we're talking change that affects our lives, and we're talking cups, so we're talking perhaps emotional matters, maybe creativity, maybe families, relationships, love, compassion, those sorts of themes. And we have the Tower that has come out upside down. Now, I always shuffle my cards with them all facing the same way, and I don't tend to use reverse meanings. And the card that jumped out wasn't the Tower, it was the Ace of Swords. And so it's a bit bizarre that the Tower is upside down. So I'm going to assume that the certain catastrophe moment of the Tower has already happened at this stage. You've experienced, you know, something that has literally turned your world upside down. And with the Knight of Cups, the messenger of change, that huge happening, whatever it is that has happened to you within those themes that I've just mentioned, whether that be love, creativity, family, relationships, compassion, things are changing. So you've had this tumultuous experience. Everything has basically come crashing down. Everything as you know it has come crashing down, and you're kind of past the storm now. The dust is settling, things are starting to sort of go back to normal, but things will never be the same again. So this message isn't going to resonate with all of you. It might only be 1 or 2 of you, but something massive has happened, and you have the chance of new opportunities to start afresh, basically, to start from the beginning and build something back up and build it better. This is the thing with the energy of the Tower, and I know we're taking a reverse meaning, but when we have the certain catastrophe of the Tower, we are left with a certain degree of bricks at the bottom, a foundation. And I actually find the Tower to be a very positive card, because we can build that back up. We can build kind of what we had before, but we can build that better. So we can rise from the ashes, we can recreate something, because we have to, because it's crumbled to the floor, but we have that foundation. And if you look at the Tower, this is a very different one, but a lot of them these days just have you know, the structure still in place at the bottom, but with the top sort of having fallen over. And I'm saying that has happened already, because the Tower moment has been and gone. It's upside down. But you have now got the opportunity to rebuild, to really think about what you want to achieve, what you want to create, what you want to put back in place. What are you going to keep from before, and what are you going to get rid of? Now, with a Tower moment, it often happens out of the blue. It's out of our hands, and it may well be that there are parts of this huge moment that have been taken out of your hands, and you couldn't recreate them even if you wanted to. But the Ace of Swords is asking you to use your intelligence and your mind and your cognitive powers and processes for this part of the journey, for this process. It's asking you to use your intuition and your maturity, and to go with the flow. So whilst you feel like the rug has been pulled out from under your feet, and the Tower is always shocking in the way that it does that, it's literally like a lightning bolt. You know, you don't expect it, you don't see it coming. It's not like the energy of the Death card, which is, you know, slow, it's painful, and often you know it's coming. It's a different type of pain. It's out of the blue. It completely upends your whole world and is very, very shocking. But by using your mental prowess, your intelligence, and within that I mean taking time to sit and to think things through very carefully, and by going with the flow when you need to, by being mature, by connecting in with your emotions but not letting those rule your head, taking a very balanced view. I'm seeing the Ace of Swords and the Queen of Cups as being very, very balanced in their energies together. You can start to rebuild, and you can rebuild something that is so much better. And that before the Tower moment, you would never have believed that, one, would happen, but two, you'd be able to sort of rescue it, you know, and turn it into something better. So if you've had a huge Tower moment in the last week or two, then take heart. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You are able to, there's, you know, an abundance of new opportunities just there for the taking. And the Ace of Swords is always like a big thumbs up as well, you know. And I take a thumbs up as, it could be lots of things, can't it? I let someone through the other day in my car and he gave me a thumbs up. So that can be a thanks. So this is a bit of a thanks to the universe for, even though it was awful and shocking, for allowing this to happen. But it's also a yes, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. Go for it, mate. So yeah, I always find that the cards always have a very positive message in amongst even the darkest messages. I like that about the Rider-Waite. Obviously that just might be some of how I perceive the cards, my own outlook on life. I'm quite an optimistic and positive person. But I think the tarot does do that, you know. Every cloud has a silver lining, and even when we're hit with the slightly darker cards or slightly more upsetting cards like the Tower or the Ten of Swords, you know, when you've literally got to the end and you've got all those swords in your back, there's often a way forward, you know, and we are given a message of hope. So that is very much a message of hope for the week ahead. I hope that, you know, you have avoided a Tower moment, but if it does come along, and it does happen, then everything is going to be okay. You can rebuild. What's it Trump calls it? Build back better. I'm not a Trump supporter. It just came to mind. I think this is the thing when you're reading cards, you get all sorts of things that just flow through. And thinking about the Tower card, and that feeling of certain catastrophe, but you will be able to build back better. Right, before I go into the territory of rambling, starting to struggle a bit now, very lightheaded and dizzy. I'm going to wish you a fantastic week ahead. Have a lovely one. Let me know in the comments if anything exciting is going on, or you've learned anything interesting this week. I will get round to those eventually. I always do. I really appreciate them, and I'm just wishing you the absolutely best week ever, the most wonderful week, and I'm sending you all my love and blessings. Thank you for watching. Bye.